Boom, and we're live. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Men with Purpose. Today, I am joined by Edward Deull. Edward is an advanced Kambo practitioner and the founder of Kambo Frog Healing. He is a Reiki master, a tethahealing practitioner, a writer, and a men's facilitator, a men's mentor, amongst many other things. You can see he's wearing a lot of hats. With that being said, Edward, I'm incredibly grateful for you joining in today and spending some time together and having a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad this worked out. Thanks for the opportunity.
Likewise, sir. Normally, I like to start these conversations with just taking a deep breath and inviting you just to do a quick check-in. What is present for you right now?
What is present for me right now, Pav, is something that you actually said in the little short check-in we had before we went live and started recording this. You said that, and I'm paraphrasing what you said. You said something to the effect of like, I've found my purpose now and I'm following it, and your purpose being this podcast series and the book that you're inspired to write. And that's what's really alive and what's really present with me is just that deeper sense of purpose. And I feel very grateful to have been aligned with my purpose for some years now in service in the men's work world and in the Kambo world. And I'm also being called into a greater sense of purpose and the opportunity to align with that sense of purpose. And I'm kind of like alive with both the joy and the excitement of that, so the fear and trepidation of that, because it's a double-edged sword, as you know, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm checking it also with a lot of purpose. I was kind of thinking about before this interview because I had a really long day. I'm a little bit tired, but now speaking to you, just like jamming for like 5 minutes, wow. I feel incredibly aligned right now, congruent and grateful just for the opportunity to sit down, have some quality time here where we're gonna be diving into some topics, I'm sure. So I'm checking in with that.
Love it.
I always like to start because I'm genuinely curious a little bit about what's your journey been like, maybe as a young man, and what maybe obstacles did you had to go through to arrive to where you are today, specifically around men's work. I'm sure we're gonna dive into Kambo and the other practices that you are also involved with.
Well, I mean, as far as my upbringing, I was raised in upstate New York, Niagara Falls, New York. Everybody knows the famous waterfall, but the town itself is actually a small blue-collar American city. I was raised by a single mother. My parents got divorced when I was 9, but my dad was not around very much to begin with. It wasn't a very amicable or pretty divorce. It was a pretty messy divorce. So my younger brother and I, who are still very, very close to this day, we moved out and we lived with my mom. She's to this day my hero. When I really got on the spiritual path, when it came to look for an example of compassion and generosity, I needed look no further than my own mother. As I really got these spiritual lessons, I was like, wow, my mom's been embodying this for decades. So I'm more than decades, probably before I was born. So I was very, very fortunate. I am very, very fortunate to have been raised by such an amazing, wonderful woman. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, but we always had food on the table and our needs were taken care of. Had a very, very conflicted relationship with my father. I held on to so much anger. I legitimately thought I hated my father for probably close to 20 years, and it was this real conflicted, like, because a part of me, that little boy inside, still really loved him, but I was very, very angry with him, and I held on to that for a long, long time. So I had the opportunity I discovered travel at a very young age. When I was 18, I did my first study abroad program, and I did ultimately 6 study abroad programs in university. And then after that, I think I'd been to like 24 countries by the time I graduated.
Wow.
I was not going to go settle into a American dream 9 to 5 existence after that. So from the age of 22 when I graduated until 31, I was on the road pretty much constantly. I've been to almost 70 countries. I was traveling over the entire
Wow.
world teaching English. I worked in the hospitality industry in Alaska in the summers, and we would just make tons of money in the summers and then go travel. So I had this really amazing, it was about a 13-year stretch from 18 to 31 of just traveling all over the world. And I'm so, so grateful for it, especially now, times being what they are. I'm so glad I saw the world when things were a lot simpler. But on the other side of all of that travel, and certainly there is glamour to that life, there was a lot of shadow and a lot of darkness. I was in a lot of pain. A lot of that came from the feelings of abandonment and rejection from my father. I suffered from depression, especially around the late teens into early 20s. My depression was pretty bad. And I was an alcoholic. I was a highly functioning alcoholic. I never lost a job. My life was great on paper, but I was quite a heavy drinker. I abused cannabis. I went through years, particularly when I was traveling through Latin America, of abusing cocaine as well. So there was certainly some darkness, dysfunctional relationships with women. I was in it. So I had this kind of, there was a lot of light and there was a lot of darkness as well. And then it really all came to a head in my early 30s. I'm 41 now. I lost a really wonderful woman that I was in a relationship with. She broke up with me because I had been harboring a secret addiction to pornography, which I know is something a lot of men struggle with. And she found out about it, and God bless her heart, there were no second chances. She just kicked me to the curb, which was the medicine I needed at that point. And that really began my spiritual awakening, which that's a much, much longer story that I'm sure we'll get to. So I'll kind of cut it there before I get too long-winded.
Sure, I got it. Wow, I appreciate you sharing all of this. It's a funny thing listening to this. I can relate to so many other things, particularly my mother being such a central figure for my upbringing, with showering me with love and kind of seeing my father through her eyes, so to speak. So there was a lot of darkness in that too.
Yeah.
But also, a common theme or common thread I hear also with other men that I speak to. There's always that one woman that kind of really, I won't say tip the scale, but really kind of made you go from 0 to 1, excuse me, so to speak. And like you said, it was probably the medicine that we needed at the time to really kind of wake up and go into the light, if we can put it that way.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So this happens, and then when did you start? First of all, how did you find men's work in the first place? What was that experience like for you?
Oh man, I went to my first men's council in probably 2014. I'd been involved in the medicine community in San Diego for about a year, in the entheogenic community for about a year. And I had made friends with a couple, actually. I was friends with the man and the woman in this couple. And this man had started a men's council, and he kept inviting me. And I always had some reason to not go to this men's council, right? And then I finally went, and it was a very informal men's council, especially compared to what I know now. Like, there was beer involved, I'll put it that way. It was super, super informal, right?
Next level.
Yeah, but it was transformative for me, and it really changed me. And then shortly thereafter, the guy who was running that council moved to Portland. He moved away, and it was this voice in my ear. Just, it was Dharma. It was Great Spirit just telling me, like, Edward, you've got to take this counsel. Like, no one's going to continue this. You have to do this. You have to
Now's
do
the
this.
time.
Now's the time. And at the time, I was already running a storytelling organization. My start with all of this was performance storytelling. I've been a performance storyteller for over a decade now, and that was such a huge part of my healing path of doing these performance storytelling shows throughout Southern California and getting into telling much more intimate stories about my life and my truth. And when I started getting into the men's work, what I saw was a version of that, of the intimacy and the vulnerability that I had been experiencing in my work as a performance storyteller and facilitating these open mic storytelling shows. So unbeknownst to me, I was being prepared to facilitate men's councils by facilitating these storytelling shows. So this gentleman moved to Portland, and I started it the same way I started the storytelling organization, which was just with sheer passion and not a whole lot of a clue outside of instinct and intuition what I was doing. But I had the passion, and I had the commitment, and I stuck to it, and more people started coming to these things. And eventually I found an organization called the Ojai Foundation, which is a really, really wonderful nonprofit council teaching organization here in California. They've been at it for, I think, a little over 40 years.
Wow.
And I went to their council training weekends. I did 2 of those. And that was very, very, very transformative for me to learn from elders who had been, they call them council carriers. They've been council carriers for decades and decades and traveled all over the world, carrying the art and the craft of council. So learning from them was very, very significant to me. And it wasn't a men's specific group. In my first training, I was actually the only man in the group. It was 12 women and me, and it was profound. And from there, the council gained more structure. My original men's council I started was called Brothers United, is called Brothers United. It's still active. And from there, I learned the structure. I gained more tools. I gained more insight. I had a greater repertoire to support this council. And then I became a very, very active member of the Native American Church here in San Diego. I dove headfirst into the practices, specifically Sweat Lodge and the teachings. And my mentor, my elder in the Native American Church, was, over the course of his life, also very involved in men's work. So Brothers United and a chapter of the Native American Church called Assembly of the Divine united, and then it just,
Whoa.
amazing. It blew up. We got so much momentum. And that was a wonderful couple of years with the church and with that teacher. And I'm sure we'll get into the evolution with SacredSons and all that. But from that, from 2014 to 2021, I've watched this work just snowball. It has grown exponentially, and I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad you're bringing this up. Some of the people that I've spoken with, we kind of talked a little bit about, becoming better men. And there was this guy there is this guy, he's still alive, David Yanjo. His name is Eben Pagan. He kind of started this whole kind of pickup community, but then that kind of evolved to just becoming better men. And I kind of, even to this day, I view pickup and just teaching men how to become better with women a little bit more on the darker side of things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of shadow. There's a lot of really dark stuff going on there. People kind of projecting other things, but that's a separate topic. What is men's work? I've been interested in just becoming a better man, maybe since, again, because of a woman at the time, for about maybe 10 years. But it wasn't until maybe 2.5 years ago when I watched a movie called The Work. where
Mhm.
these gentlemen go into, they're also like a council non-profit. They go into a prison, and they
Yep.
kind of work with inmates. Whoa, that kind of really blew my socks off. And then I kind of started coming across this. Oh, what is this men's work? Men's work, men's work. So that seems to be emerging for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, is more of kind of more mainstream under the maybe packaged as men's work. Or am I missing something? That's kind of what I've seen so far.
Well, it's been my path with it. Again, I didn't I didn't quite know. I didn't personally see a scene, quote unquote, with
Yeah,
men's work
yeah.
until probably 4 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I had already been in it for a couple of years at that point, just doing it total grassroots, just here in San Diego. Again, just following intuition, following the
Mm-hmm.
bread trail. Um, and then I became aware of this broader concept of men's work, and even tracing back to the roots of the Minnesota men's movement and Robert Bly and, you know, these Michael Mead and
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Shaw, these wonderful teachers who had been doing this, you know, when I was in 8th grade. So seeing that it did have roots, it does have roots, and seeing where it's going now. Men are unhappy. People are unhappy in
People
general.
are happy. Yeah,
People
yeah.
are unhappy in general, and you know, I'm comfortable speaking to my own country. There's an epidemic of depression and suicide and addiction in America right now. I haven't looked at the current statistics, but I know as of last year, the average American lifespan had decreased by 2 years. We went from 80 to
Mm.
78, and they call it a crisis of despair. And it was specifically because of overdoses and suicides. And a lot of those are men. A lot of those are men. And one of the biggest point toolable reasons, in my opinion, is this, what we call the lone wolf mentality, which is suck it up. Don't be, you know, feelings are feminine. Feelings make your sexuality compromised. Feelings make your sense of masculinity compromised. Just suck it up. Don't talk about it. Do it. And it's like that leads to A, unhappiness, and B, quite likely the grave. And it's not sustainable. Not sustainable. And I always say rock bottom is either a grave or a door. You hit rock bottom, people hit rock bottom. I hit rock bottom. I didn't die. It was a door, right?
So,
And for these men that are hitting rock bottom, which there's many every single hour, boom, nailing their own personal rock bottom. For those of them that don't die, some of them are going to find a door. Some of them are going to keep hitting rock bottom again and again and again and again and again, because you need that wake up call. But when it finally hits, if it doesn't put them in the grave, there's going to be a door there. And on the other side of that door, they are going to find the right people to help them heal. And I believe that for those of us who have found the door in rock bottom and followed it and done the work to be able to greet those men as they come through that door of rock bottom, it is part of our dharmic and sacred responsibility to do so, to be a guide for these men. And I work with women too, for these people
mhm.
as they find that doorway, because it's a journey that I know very, very well.
Wow, man, I feel like I'm a little kid, just like, yeah, I can't hold it. Like, I'm trying, okay, be responsible, like, keep your cool, but like, just listening to this, like, it's energy, man. It's you can't suppress it, right? It's difficult to suppress. Well, whenever you're called to something that is so authentic, that's how I'm feeling it. Do you think the reason? Do you think the reason why we're seeing kind of men's work getting more and more, put it in air quotes, popular right now, is because of these issues that are happening, which again deeply rooted, I think, because of maybe the lack of fathers, and we can go down that rabbit hole as well. Do you think that's why this work is resonating with more and more men?
I think those problems have always been there, Pav. So I don't know that
Mm,
it's that. You know, I think it's a chicken and an egg thing. Is it hitting a head right now? Is it coming to a head? Or is it just that A, this stuff is more talked about now, and B, with the internet, we have more access to information right now? It's hard to say.
Mm.
I think men have always been in trouble. I don't think that this is new. This goes way back to veterans coming back from World War I and World War II. They were shell shocked. And then that was PTSD. Let's call it what it was, you know.
Yeah.
But you got into these generations of like the 40s dad and the 50s dad, and buttoned up and don't talk about it and just play ball with the boy. And, you know, there was always a lot of darkness. I think part of the popularity is, in my opinion, part and parcel of the rise of healing modalities that we are seeing throughout the world right now. I am, you know, I consider myself a student of Vedic philosophy, and in the times as presented in the Vedic philosophies in the yugas, we're generally considered to be in the Kali Yuga right now, which is the winter of humanity, the age of machines. But within these different times, there are seasons. So there are seasons within the seasons. And something that I deeply resonate with, my mantra teacher has talked about how within this spiritual winter that we are in, this Kali Yuga, this age of machines, we are in a springtime of the winter. And that is because we are, or why we are seeing this rise in, I mean, we can just stick to the plant medicine rise alone. I mean, the fact that there are ayahuasca ceremonies in every major city in the world every single weekend, multiple ceremonies in every major city. Maybe not in the world, probably not in the Middle East, let's be honest. But, you know, in countries where it's more accessible, I guess, you know, certainly in Europe, certainly in North America, certainly in South America. So there's a rise, and where that rise is coming from, who can say, you know, but I do think it's spirit coming out, and it's these jungle medicines coming out to help save us so that we can help to save the earth. Because this, again, this lone wolf mentality is not serving. We are connected to everything, and we are deeply, deeply connected to each other and to the earth. And the sooner that we are able as a species to align with unity consciousness and to realize that what we do to the web, we do to ourselves, the better off we're going to be as a species. And I think that these plants and Kambo and men's work, and even something like the rise of yoga, is all part and parcel of the evolution of our species.
Wow. Amen to that. Amen to that. I never thought about it through the lens or the perspective that you said, because of, you know, the rise of all of these practices, which kind of makes me think, wow, I want to, you know, learn more about that. You know, we kind of already touched upon these things. Can we talk a little bit about Kambo? I did a ayahuasca ceremony, I think it was the year before, 2019. And before that, there was also a Kambo ceremony leading into the ayahuasca, which I didn't attend because I thought, okay, this is going to be too extreme. For, you know, folks that are listening right now and are asking, what is Kambo? Can we dive a little bit into that?
100%. One of my favorite topics, bro. Kambo, you'll hear me call it Kambo or Kambo. They're both, you know, permissible. Is the secretion from a tree frog called the Philomedusae baculare. It is native to the Amazonian rainforest, specifically in Peru, Brazil, Colombia, and there is also a population in French Guiana, and likely a population in Guyana as well. Tribes from the Amazon, indigenous peoples from the Amazon, have been using Kambo for time untold. There's the origin legend about how an ayahuasquero named Campum was gifted the frog in an ayahuasca journey and was told and taught by grandmother ayahuasca how to use this frog to heal his village. Again, how long ago that was, who's to say? What Kambo is again a secretion from the Phylomedusae bicolor frog. It is loaded with peptides, and peptides are short chains of amino acids. Some of these peptides are bioactive, which means that the body allows them to break through the blood-brain barrier. Now, the body protects the brain at all costs. When things try to enter the brain, it usually sends them back to be absorbed by the blood, hence the blood-brain barrier. With some of these peptides in Kambo, it allows them right into the brain. So on a physiological, biological, scientific level, Kambo, because of the peptides contained within the secretion from this frog, is deeply, deeply, deeply healing. And this has been studied by researchers at the University of Dublin, at the University of Paris, and at the University of Rome. And there's been other studies, but those are the three kind of benchmark, more notable studies. It did not come to the West until 1985. It was brought by a man named Peter Gorman, and he brought 2 sticks back from the Peruvian jungle in 85. He sent 1 stick to a pharmaceutical company. He sent the other stick to a man named Vitraura Spromer, who is a Nobel Prize nominated chemist and scientist at the University of Rome. And he devoted the end of his career to really studying these peptides and combos. So since this tribal medicine has been brought out, we've been able to ascertain scientifically what it does on a physical level and how it helps to heal the body for things like as simple as inflammation, candida, yeast, bacteria, virus, but then getting into, I work with a lot of autoimmune clients. I work with clients who have Lyme disease. I work with clients who have HIV and AIDS. I've worked with clients who have very serious afflictions and maladies, and they have found relief through this secretion, through this traditional tribal shamanic medicine. What it does, it's applied through burns on the skin. They're called gates. That's how it's been done traditionally, again, for who knows how long. The reason for it is that Kambo enters through the lymphatic system. And that's how the tribes have been doing it. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I do it the way I've been taught, which is the way my teachers have been taught, which is the way that the tribes passed it down. From there, it induces about a 30-minute experience that is visceral purging in the form of vomiting, toilet purges, shaking, sometimes violently shaking, sweating, sometimes profusely sweating, and emotional purges. And again, sometimes emotional purges that are pretty uncontrollable. It's like trying to hold back a waterfall, trying to hold back the tears that come with Kambo. Again, about a 30-minute experience. The integration period can last much longer than that, of course. And I could talk about it for a long time, but I feel like that kind of covers the basis of what is Kambo. Yeah.
I got you. Wow. It's now it makes me, now listening to you with, speaking with so much passion about it, I'm like, shit, I should have done it way back when I did the ayahuasca. But hopefully we have more opportunities in the near future to do that.
There's lots of good practitioners in Europe. There's lot of good practitioners in Europe.
I'm sure I'll be, looking forward to doing one of these. As I'm listening to you, I can't help but think that, this notion of ritual, of ceremony, really plays a huge role, not just with Kambo, but with other practices and modalities, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about the value of ritual, and also specifically in men's work? Because I know the work that you're doing with SacredSons, you are creating a container for other men and kind of guiding them through a ritual. Can you talk a little bit about the value in that? Because I think we've lost a lot of that in today's society.
I could not agree more. I strongly believe that human beings are genetically coded to respond to ritual and ceremony. I believe that it's in our DNA. I truly, truly do. And if you look at the grand scope of our time as a species, It is a very, very, very short amount of time in our history as human beings in which ceremony and ritual have not been very, very present in life and in daily life. And Ram Dass, who is, I consider to be a personal teacher of mine, in one of his lectures, he talks about how, at least in America back in the 60s, there was this movement away from religion because there was a lot of darkness in organized religion, specifically in America and probably in the world. And he talks about how when we did that, while it may have been necessary to separate as a collective culture from certain aspects of the shadow aspects of religion, he talks about how we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. And what that was the loss of ceremony and ritual. I believe that it's literally coded into our DNA, and that when people enter into ceremony and enter into ritual, and I see it in men's work, it is a remembering. They remember. They've done this before. There's something that relaxes. Being seen and being heard are human needs. They are needs. And when we are in the ceremony of counsel, those needs are met for each other in a way that, unfortunately, I think few people have the opportunity to experience outside of those sacred spaces. In the counsel lineage in which I've been trained through the OHA Foundation, and this is directly from the elders Jack Zimmerman and Virginia Coyle, who wrote a wonderful book called The Way of Counsel through the OHA Foundation. They talk about listening from the heart, which is one of the backbones of counsel, in my opinion. And the direct quote is, when we practice listening from the heart, we listen with the same ear that a new parent would give to their child about to speak its first words. We listen that closely. And that is possible because counsel is a ceremony. It is a ritual. And ceremony and ritual, in my opinion and in my experience, there is an implied reverence in which you are entering a sacred space and you will act accordingly. The way you take off your shoes and your hat before you go into a mosque, the way you are silent when you enter a temple or a synagogue or a church. Counsel is that. Anything can be that when it is done with that intention. And within that, we are given an opportunity to rediscover ourselves in a way that is not as readily available in the workaday world.
Wow. Man, this is the first time we're speaking. And again, I've been doing some of these interviews already. Whenever people start talking about ritual, as if they're looking through my eyes, what I've experienced on, certain rituals or ceremonies that I've been a part, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's a men's retreat, there's just something happens that you're like, whoa, what's about to happen here? But then something innate in you begins to feel more relaxed, more calm. Oh, this is somewhat familiar. I've never been here. I've never seen these people, but it feels, familiar.
We are products of our ancestors. Our ancestors are products of ritual. We're not that far removed from people who engaged in ritual as a regular part of their lives. That could be one generation away with our grandparents who went to church or synagogue or mosque multiple times a week, who lit candles for deceased loved ones on certain days. These are rituals.
Yeah.
Same with altars. You see beautiful altars in ayahuasca ceremonies. There's people set altars without even realizing it. The picture of the deceased grandparents with a little candle next to it. Maybe you occasionally put flowers there. Boom, that's an altar. People might not think they have an altar, but they have an altar because there is something within us that seeks connection with the divine. And ritual and ceremony are roads to divinity, in my opinion.
Oh, man. There's so many like value bombs being dropped here. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to pay attention and stay here without trying to think about what you just said. Um, we talked about ritual, we talked about ceremony, but also listening to you, I hear the word teacher being,
Mhm.
dropped on multiple occasions. That seems to be a very core component, specifically I mean, not just in men's work, but in life in general. I feel like maybe I'm overgeneralizing here, but we kind of moved away a little bit from listening to the wisdom of these elders and maybe not so much seeking mentorship, not so much seeking the advice of elder people. It's like today everybody kind of is everybody kind of knows everything, and obviously you have the internet, etc. But we seems like we've lost a little bit of that wisdom and that sacred connection with our elders. Is this kind of, are you seeing something like this, or?
Yeah, and it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. People in America don't want to look at death. People in the West don't want to look at death.
Why is
They,
that?
because it reminds us of the impermanence of life. There is no such thing as permanence or certainty. It is all grasping at air. None of it is real. And most of us spend a great amount of time and energy in the quest for certainty. And death is the final uncertainty. And in America, at least, and in the West, in my opinion, we
Mm-hmm.
push our elders away. We put them in homes. We just like, we don't want to see it. We don't, it's too close to home. It's too close to home. It reminds us of our own mortality. It's not quote unquote pretty in a very, very photoshopped world.
Oh man.
And that is a terrible loss. That is a terrible, terrible loss. I yearn for elders, and I haven't found that many. I'll be honest. I haven't found that many.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very, very hopeful by what I see going on amongst my peers now. I'm 41. I, God willing, have a long life ahead of me. And I look at my peers in the medicine world and in the men's work world and my peers with SacredSons. And I often think, especially at gatherings when we're all together, like if we all continue the way that we're going right now, 30, 40, for some of us 50 years down the road, whew, there's going to be
Mm,
a powerful generation of elders, provided that we keep showing up in a good way and that
yeah.
we keep open.
Mm,
It's all about, it's a dance, as someone, for me, who is a facilitator, and I have summed this up with a phrase that I've said on podcasts before, and that's sometimes you're the lighthouse, sometimes you're the boat. And as a facilitator and a guide, I am a lighthouse, and people who are lost at sea in their boats find their way to me. They find their way to my Kambo practice. They find their way to Kambo Brotherhood and to my men's coaching. They find their way to my theta healing practice and to my groups.
mm,
And they heal and they grow, and ideally they leave my
yeah.
lighthouse, and
Wow.
then they go and they find their shore, and ideally they build their own lighthouse. And whether that's for their families and their loved ones, or whether they start up their own practices from there, beautiful. But no one is a lighthouse all the time, and no one should or can be a lighthouse all the time. We all need to have our own healers and teachers that we go to.
Mm-hmm.
I I see that as paramount for facilitators and for guides and coaches and healers. So, I certainly am eternally a student and always a work in progress, and have my own things that I'm working on in my own life. And I have my own guides and healers and teachers that I go to. So I become a boat and I go to their lighthouses, and I learn and I heal and I grow, and I bring that wisdom back to my lighthouse so that the people that come to my lighthouse can do the same. And then, as again, to take it to Ram Dass, it's like we're all just walking each other home. It's
Oh,
really a beautiful cycle.
Whew. Wow, that's so beautifully put. Lighthouse, and about every single man I've interviewed up until this day, yes, they're kind of stepping into a leadership role. Yes, they are a facilitator of some sort, but they also have their teachers, their mentors, their, you know, elders who are guiding them and, empowering them with their wisdom in parallel to what they're doing already. And sometimes I look at what's happening today. I'm thinking, where are all the elders? It seems like we're not in a patriarchy, but we're in a poorarchy, which is kind of rule of boys, and people like what is happening. Like, not to get political or anything like this, but I mean, we can talk about that. But I just feel like what has happened, like, young boys and boys and girls are growing up in a world where there seems to be so much chaos, but we're kind of expecting almost like someone to kind of save us. And actually, we need to do the inner work ourselves to really get to the point where there's elders who can steer the youngsters into the right direction, and kind of go through rites of passage and rituals and all these kind of things that we've lost so much in our culture today, unfortunately.
We have, and it is unfortunate, and they are out there, and I mean, some in the collective that I have really found myself drawn to would include Michael Mead. I think Michael Mead is an amazing elder teacher. He's wonderful.
Is
Would
he
include,
still alive?
yeah, Michael Mead is very much
Wow.
alive. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Dr. Martin Shaw, who is getting into that elderhood, is absolutely wonderful. I have always considered myself a student of an elder he's no longer in this realm, and he is not well known at all. His name is Sam Wright, and he was a naturalist and a writer and a pastor and an epistemologist, and he was really the first elder who brought me along. So I have hope that there will be more. And I mean, you mentioned the word rites of passage, the phrase rites of passage, and I have, in ways that I never would have expected, become a facilitator of rites of passage for men. And that has become something that is paramount in my life, and that I've lent a lot of energy and time and devotion to. And men don't have rites of passage, period, and we need them. Again, I think it's something that is coded into our DNA. I really truly believe that. And when young men do not have rites of passage brought down to them by qualified teachers and elders, what we do as young men, in my opinion, is we attempt to prove our significance, and we do so without guidance, and it ends up hurting people, and it ends up hurting ourselves. And I went through that 100%. Young men are stereotypically very reckless. It stereotypically involves alcohol, drugs, gratuitous sex, possessions, money, belongings, all of these things, because we want to feel significant. We have come of age, yet there is no one there for so many of us to teach us what that looks like. And in this past year, Kambo Brotherhood was born to fulfill that need. And this, from my end, was very, very much an act of answering the call that Kambo brought to me. Kambo specifically told me, initiate the men. It was a message directly from Kambo in ceremony. And it was very, very clear that I would not be initiating the men, because I am not an elder. I am not a master teacher. I am, however, a very good Kambo facilitator. I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm good at what I do. And I am able, with the support of the wonderful facilitation team who has gathered around this work, and who stands with me to open up the channels for the spirit of Kambo to come in as a master initiator of men
Mm.
who are ready to take the step into what I call spiritual manhood. And spiritual manhood, in my opinion, is again about recognizing our part in the collective whole as men and living for the collective, not in a way of overgiving or a way of martyrdom, but in a way of alignment, in the way of, in my opinion, the true definition of a king is one who is so selfless that he will always give for the greater good of the collective rather than for his own personal gain. And I give again and again and again. I just bow to the spirit of Kambo for allowing this work to come through me. It's been the greatest gift of one of the greatest gifts of my life. I mean, we started the first Kambo Brotherhood in July in the middle of a freaking pandemic, man. This is all going on in the middle of a pandemic. We're doing it safely, and we're on track to do 4 in a year, which is
Wow.
more. We're doing the 3rd one in March here in San Diego, and I mean, I had dreams and hopes about it, and it's already exceeded that. And again, to tie it
Wow.
back into something I talked about is just these men are waking up every day and they're just going like, wait a second, man, there is something wrong here. Something's missing. And a lot of them did the steps. They did the school, the job, the money, the condo, the partner, the nice
Mm.
car, all the stuff. And they're like, I'm still not happy. What the hell is going on here? And they're finding their way to Kambo Brotherhood and to SacredSons and to the myriad other wonderful groups out there, because there's some really, really great men's facilitators out there right now. And I'm very
Mm.
grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah. Wow. Man, I gotta admit, I've been kind of paying attention to what's been happening over the last, I don't know, 12 months. And part of me kind of lost a little bit of hope that, things are gonna go okay, whatever that means. I mean, it means different things to different people. But listening to you, listening to the passion, the commitment with which you're speaking about this, and you're a full embodiment of this purpose that you have, and you're guided to kind of initiate others into. I gotta say, man, it's inspiring to hear. It really makes me kind of my blood boil inside in a good way. I'm just like, oh man, let's go get it. Like in a way that step into this gift that you and others are doing, and can bring to the world, and continue this work, because what you described there is exactly what I'm kind of projecting and hoping for more men to do, because this is what we need right now.
Absolutely. I have a lot of hope. I have a ton of hope. A ton of hope. What an incredible time to be alive,
I know.
because we are witnessing a significant unraveling of the known. A significant unraveling of the known. And COVID has been such an incredible teacher for that, to just show the collective that what we take for granted and consider to be permanent can go just gone
Like that.
like that. It's a house of cards, the whole thing. And part of this great unraveling, and this is a teaching I got from Michael Meade, is that on the other end of that are the weavers, are the people who will take the threads that are coming loose from this great unraveling and will make the new world from that. And we are weavers. You are a weaver. I am a weaver. I imagine that most people listening to this podcast, hopefully all people listening to this podcast, are weavers. And that opportunity is there from the macro of starting a practice and running retreats, to the micro of being a parent, of just being a person on this path, that it doesn't have to be this grand overture of a huge offering to the world. And in fact, it is paramount that even if those grand overtures are a part of what is being woven, that the smaller, unseen weaving of everyday kindness, of everyday calibration with compassion and love and generosity, that these micro weavings become a essential part of the tapestry of our souls as individuals and the new consciousness that is coming forward in this world.
And you are a powerhouse. I mean, like, wow. just the, like, you have this kind of ability to draw people in. Just, I mean, it's you being congruent, you know, speaking your purpose, you living your purpose, and listening to you, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of opportunity right now for this grand awakening, and people really hopefully learning a lesson from everything that's been unraveling over the last, I don't know, 12 months or so.
Absolutely. And it's been for a lot longer than 12 months before that, man.
Yeah, there's that too.
With the House of Cards, the whole thing was a friggin' illusion. It's like, you know, the misdirection of the magician, you know, the magician of politics, the magician of media, the magician of whatever. Like, look over here, here, nothing to see over here, nothing's wrong here. And then all of a sudden, COVID.
Ikadoosh, yeah.
And in America, the concurrent rise of the exposing of injustices that have been festering for forever, for centuries, for probably more than centuries. And it's just like, this can't stand anymore. This cannot stand anymore. We are one species. We are a species. It does not matter what color your skin is, or what God you believe in, or whom you choose to share your bed with. We have got to continue to wake up to the fact that we are one, and we are all far more similar than we are different. We have the same needs, we have the same struggles, we have the same conflicts, and by and large, most of us want the same things. You know, a wonderful teacher of mine, Kevin Walton, Source Radiance on Instagram, talks about how we all need to feel safe and significant. And that's been a wonderful teacher for me. And nonviolent communication with Marshall Rosenberg has been a wonderful teacher for me in realizing that, like, yeah, our needs are pretty much the same. And facilitating storytelling shows and counsel has been a wonderful teacher in the fact that it is nearly a universal experience in counsel, that as the talking stick goes around the circle and people share from their hearts, it is a very, very common experience for all of the people in that council to see their own story and their own struggles reflected in the shares of every single other person in that circle, no matter how old they are, or what their skin color is, or what their gender identity is, or their religious beliefs, or their sexual orientation. We are way more alike than we are different.
Yeah, I can't remember who said this. The more personal something is, the more universal it is. That's why you kind of see yourself in others when they're speaking their problems that they thought, oh, maybe nobody can relate to this. And all of a sudden, everybody kind of raises their hand. And she's like, whoa.
Exactly. And again, Michael Mead, I got this from Michael Mead, and I believe that this might be from Rumi, and I'm paraphrasing. It's not an exact quote, but it's something to the effect of, you know, the wound, that our wounds can be a gateway for others to see the light. Wow. And again, this is part of this lighthouse boat walking each other home continuum, in that I went through abandonment. I went through addiction. I went through abuse, physical, emotional, and sexual. I went through all of these things. And then in a response, in a reaction, in an immature reaction to these things as a young man, because I did not have the right guidance, and I take full responsibility for my decisions as a young man, I went down that path of addiction. And because of that, I was brought to that rock bottom, and it did not kill me. I found a door, and I went through it, and I did the work to be a guide. And so it all goes back to, again, that Michael Meade teaching, which I believe is from Rumi, is like the wound in me of abandonment and addiction, et cetera, has become a door through where others may heal that same wound or their own version of those wounds. And that's the cycle of it all. And I see that. And again, this is age-old wisdom. This is nothing new. We're almost playing out our archetypes in a way.
There we go. Yeah. I was just about to say, it seems very archetypal material, matter, if you will. I know we're kind of advancing with time. I'd like to ask a question to my guest.
So yeah.
Okay, perfect then. Perfect. Talk to me a little bit about, SacredSons. I think people listening to this definitely would know SacredSons. For people that are kind of new or don't know anything about men's work, can you talk a little bit about men's work and how you kind of got involved with SacredSons?
Yeah, I mean, I've known, so there's the triad, the original three founders of SacredSons, Adam Jackson, Aubert Bastiat, and Jason McKenzie. I was friends with Adam and Jason before SacredSons began, and I had known Jason for a couple years actually before SacredSons, and I had been facilitating Kambo for Jason semi-frequently for a spell there. I can't even remember what year this was, man. The years all blend together. You know how it goes with time. But probably about, it might have been 2 years or 18 months or something like that before the very first convergence, which I think was 3 years ago. Pardon me if my timeline is askew.
Nobody's going to fact check this, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's all pretty recent, though. So sure. Jason McKenzie led a men's retreat called the Sovereign Man Retreat. It was here in San Diego, and I served Kambo at it. And I served Kambo for 12 people, and it was wonderful. And it really, I had always, I mean, and I've served Kambo for, I don't even know how many people at this point. I'm well over 1,000 people. So like literally every gender identity, like every color of the rainbow, all across the map. I've served Kambo to a myriad of humans. But that Sovereign Man Retreat really showed me what a wonderful and powerful organic mix Kambo and men's work are. They just go together so well. Kambo being this warrior medicine that requires vulnerability. It requires vulnerability and it requires strength, which is a beautiful crux of men's work, in my opinion. So we did this Sovereign Man's Retreat, and it was awesome. I loved it. It just was a next level for me. And Jason got in touch with me. Again, my timeline is skewed up, but it wasn't a year. It was less than a year after the Sovereign Man Retreat. And he was like, hey, got another men's retreat coming up in October. We want you there to serve Kambo. I was like, perfect. I was traveling before COVID. I would go the entire West Coast every summer. I would go from San Diego, sometimes all the way up to Alaska, and I would just facilitate Kambo and facilitate retreats and facilitate men's work up and down the coast every summer. So I was on one of my West Coast facilitation expeditions, and I was like, yeah, man, just hit me up when the time gets closer, thinking, yeah, we'll have like 12, maybe 15 guys like last time, no big deal. So he hits me up closer to October, and I was like, how many men are coming to the retreat? He's like, 75. I was like, 75?
Oh, okay.
What did you do? Like, what the heck happened? And he's like, SacredSons, man, check it out. And And while I was off traveling, facilitating up and down the coast, Adam and Bear and Jason and, you know, the team, because there's been
Yeah.
amazing men around them from the start. It's not been a solo act in any way, shape, or form from the beginning. Had created Sacred Sons, and the first convergence was online, and then it was at Liberty Arising, which is a retreat center here in San Diego that's like a second home for me. And since then, it's been like, whew, the momentum has been
Yeah.
beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, Sacred Sons, for those of you who are unfamiliar, I mean, their treatise is really co-stewarding the return of the father archetype. And I love that co-stewarding, is that even in the foundation, it was founded by these three men, and there's just concentric circles of really, really wonderful men who are choosing to support this organization because they see the value in it. I see the value in it. I'm blown away. I am blown away by what the containers that Sacred Sons holds are doing for men to tune in and to tap into their wounds in a way that allows them to heal and to move forward with actionable, sustainable movements in a supported environment. The support is huge. The brothership, the online support, the in-person support, the branch offs, the spin-offs that have come from Sacred Sons of men doing their own councils. I mean, I can honestly say that Sacred Sons inspired me to start Kambo Brotherhood. That I consider that to be, you know, the momentum of Sacred Sons really inspired me to start Kambo Brotherhood. And I really think in many ways this is just the beginning. They started the Sacred Sons with a Z for the younger men, the Youth Academy.
Yeah, I saw that.
This year with the highlighting of racial injustice and racial inequality in the United States, Sacred Sons got on board in such a big way with BIPOC scholarships to really, and it's always been, in my opinion, more ethnically diverse than a lot of the spiritual world that I've witnessed in Southern California. The Southern California spiritual world that I've witnessed is pretty white, and Sacred Sons has always had more diversity, even within the three founders, you know. And they really did a great job, in my opinion, of broadening their horizons and offering the right kind of support for men of color to be a part of this work as well. So I love what they're doing. I'm so grateful for them, and I support them with all of my heart.
Yeah, people should just keep giving them a plug as well. People should go and check it out. The amount of work that I think men need right now more than ever is, yeah, it's something that if you're looking for some answers, I think Sacred Son could give you some of those answers that maybe you're not gonna like, but you really need to hear and to see and to experience. So go for sure, check him out. I like to ask my guests before we kind of wrap things up. Is there something that you wish I'd asked you that I didn't?
Oh God, that's a great question. I don't know, man. I feel like I hit all the points I personally would have wanted to talk about. So yeah, but great question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always curious to hear, because there's so many pockets of wisdom that we can kind of get into, and time is always kind of against us, and not in a very over dramatic sense, but I'm trying to kind of squeeze everything from this conversation so that it serves other people, because I genuinely believe we're doing the work here for other kind of spreading this message. So sometimes something does come up, and in which case I'm very honored to kind of dive into that for a few minutes. But if nothing comes in, then it's all fine.
Well, I mean, I still have some time. We've got another 10, 15 minutes. I guess something that comes up that, that I feel is important to say is to anyone that's listening to this, whether they be men or women, this is to anyone that's feeling fear. Okay. The phrase terminally unique is something that we talk about in the addiction recovery world, and how often people who are on the verge of finding their way into addiction recovery, whether that be through the 12 steps or plant-based addiction recovery, suffer this self-imposed terminal uniqueness, as in like, my problems are too big, my shame is too great, I've made too big of a mess of things, I can't possibly, right? And there's a wonderful teacher called Bill Plotkin. He's a wild psychologist. He wrote a book called Soulcraft, amongst many others. And he says that self-doubt is as self-centered as self-inflation. It is your sacred duty to, and I'm paraphrasing now, I can't remember the rest of it exactly, but it's your sacred duty to look deeply within, to reach in and offer your gifts in service to the world. So to anyone out there who's like, this is all great, but I'm not ready, or what I've done is it's too bad. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. There are a lot of people who think that. And I hear that all the time at Kambo Brotherhood, at SacredSons, with the clients who find their way to me, whether it be for coaching or theta healing, that people become terminally unique in over-identification with their perceived problems, usually vis-a-vis the victim ego. It happened to me. I'm a victim to this. The shame is too much. The guilt is too much. The addiction's too much. The fear is too much. It's too much. It's too far gone. No, it's not. No, it's not. And furthermore, I believe that it's our duty, as a friend of mine would say, to get over ourselves and stop thinking that our problems make us so different and so special and so far gone that we can't go find help and ask for help. So that just came through as something that's important to say. One of my one of our SacredSons brothers, Brendan Durrell, Bam, he's Inner Light Warrior on Instagram. He did it was like a repost of a Twitter that he put out one time, and I still remember it to this day. He said the most baller thing I ever did was ask for help, and I love that. I love that. I love it. Exactly. Especially for you men out there, like ask, seek, like take the step to heal. And another piece of wisdom that comes down, and this I got from Michael Gay, who is a wonderful facilitator and psychotherapist with SacredSons. He's amazing. And he got this from a man he considers to be his teacher, Dewey Freeman. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of, we're created in community, we're wounded in community, and we have to heal in community. And we have to heal in community. So if this applies to you, if you're on the verge, but you're scared, you're terminally unique, your stuff's too big. Nope, it's too big. My wounds are too big. My damage is too big. My guilt, my shame. I fucked up too much. That's a big one for men. I fucked up too much. The mistakes I made are too big. I can't possibly be redeemed. Bullshit. Reach out.
Man, I work with this was so potent. People need to re-listen to it again, because it was just, you're spitting out fire. I love it. I work with Michael Gay. I was fortunate enough to kind of connect with him for like 2 or 3 sessions. That man is powerful. He is a special man. Wow. It's that's probably I can't think of a better way to describe it apart from being a Jedi. Uh, yeah, what that man is doing is, yeah. I mean, you and everybody else is just, you kind of have this kind of concoction of medicine that is just being brought to others. If they wish, they kind of drink it, and then I think their life is never the same. As corny as this sounds, yeah.
It's true. I just finished facilitating a Kambo retreat in Tucson, Arizona for, there were two brothers, they're blood brothers, and they did the first Kambo Brotherhood, and they brought me out to Tucson to facilitate for their community, their
Yeah.
families, you know, and I just did that for 3 days, and it was just so heartwarming and wonderful. And my buddy Ramses, he's, you know, and I humbly accept, I've learned to not deflect the nice things that people say to me. I let them land, but he says literally every time he sees me, and he says, he's like, I'll say this every time I see you. You changed my life, man. You changed my life, man.
Yes. I mean, it's a door that once you're exposed to it, it's difficult to close. And then I think it's important to honor the people that showed us to the door. And, you know, obviously we walk through it, but it's important to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm also grateful for you to be here and to be showing me, and I think other listeners, a door in their own, you know, individual right, whether that is going through trauma or through therapy, or kind of stepping up and going through your fears and breaking the limiting beliefs. And yeah, whatever that is, I think it's certain landing for me, that's for sure. I'm going to be sitting before I go to bed today. I'm going to be yeah, that Edward guy, damn, he's right. He is right about a lot of things.
By the grace of my teachers.
Okay. Okay, I got you. If, you know, people listening to this, I'm sure a lot of them would resonate with what you're saying, or at least resonate with your energy, with your spirit and message. Where can they find a little bit more about you?
The best place is honestly on Instagram right now. My handle is @KamboFrog. I have a website. It's quite outdated. So I'm in the middle of a rebrand right now. I will be relaunching very, very soon under a different name. I'm very Kambo forward. My Kambo practice has been going for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
And yeah, I've been very, very Kambo forward, yet within that, there's been other things that I've always done. I've always been doing men's work. I've been doing men's coaching. And I've always been doing theta healing as well, which is consciousness repatterning work. Theta healing allows the practitioner and the recipient to bring a light to the subconscious and unconscious belief systems and patterns that the client holds, and to rewrite them to align with their intentions and with their best hopes and dreams for their life, to move forward in a good way. It's like Jung said, you know, we must make the unconscious conscious. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but he talks about that a lot, making the unconscious conscious. So so my theta healing work is something else that I'm equally passionate about. I could do a whole nother podcast on theta healing work as well. And I also do integration coaching. I work with women as well. I work with all gender persuasions. I do spiritual integration coaching and preparation and integration coaching for people who are working with plant medicines and with entheogenic medicine as well. So best place to find me right now is @KamboFrog on Instagram. I'm going to be doing a relaunch pretty soon. I've got some things I've been working on for some years that are going to be made public very soon. So, and I have space in my heart for people who, and in my schedule for people who would like to experience any of the work that it is I do. And I do have another Kambo Brotherhood rites of passage, men's rites of passage retreat going on in Southern California outside of San Diego at Liberty Arising from March 11th to March 14th. There are only 10 spaces left. I only take 12 men for this. Even if there's a waiting list of 20 people, I will only take 12 men to preserve the sanctity of a tribal container where it's very small. 12 men going through a 4-day rite of passage with myself and the wonderful facilitation team, and of course, the spirit of Kambo as the master initiator. So Kambo Frog on Instagram, reach out. My lighthouse is on, and it shines for all who would like to experience my medicine.
There we go. Beautiful. I'll be sure to put all the links in the show notes so people can find you more. And this is going to be on for hopefully a long time, so people can kind of connect and listen to this and find you and discover all the beautiful medicine that you're putting out in the world.
Wow. And my website is combofrog.com.
Sir, perfect. Edward, thank you so much for doing this interview. I have a lot of takeaways for myself that I'll have to re-listen and kind of rethink, like, what did he actually meant with this? But really, I honor you. The light in me honors the light in you, sir. Thank you for doing all the work. It's definitely needed, that's for sure.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm really grateful to be on the podcast, and I hope to meet you in person someday. Hopefully you can make it to California for some SacredSons work.
For sure.
Or I'll make it to Europe. I would happily work in Europe. So there's a good chance I'll be in the UK in August. So depending on what travel looks like at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's settled then. Okay, right. We're gonna dance it with Kambo, I think.
Do it. I'd love to go to Bulgaria.
Nice. Love it. Okay, folks. That's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please go check Edward's website, Instagram. Be sure to get involved with his work and his medicine in any kind of way, shape, or form. And I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you, brother.
See ya.